When I miss the sound and the fury, I take refuge in my garage and turn the key in the ignition of my Miura. This wasn't just a car, it was a pinup. The ultimate symbol of excess, the Wolf of Wall Street, the Miami Vice drug kingpin, the cigar-smoking Italian boss who decided, Ferrari. Yeah, I'm starting my own car company with blackjack, illicit drugs, and strippers. Or maybe just a wild V12? This is the craziest underdog story you've ever heard. A tractor tycoon turned hypercar legend that all started out of pure spite. This is the story of the Raging Bulls. Let's go. Have you recently found yourself doing a bunch more online shopping? Yeah, me too. And that's where today's sponsor, Honey, is something you need to be using. It's the free internet browser extension and really is my online savings sidekick. And it automatically scours the internet for promotional codes to give you some discounts wherever you shop. It already works for the things that you already buy. And it's so easy to install, just 2 clicks, you'll be ready to be using it on your favorite websites. So, how easy is it to use? Well, it just pops up at checkout and asks you to apply coupons. And guys, it really is that simple to start saving money. Like magic, it starts searching for coupon codes automatically and works on all types of websites. All you gotta do is hit accept and it's gonna save you money. Everything from auto parts stores, websites, gaming websites, tech websites, literally everything. So if you have a computer, Honey needs to be on it. Just go to joinhoney.com/idealmedia. That's joinhoney.com/idealmedia. And be sure to download it because it's on every computer here at Ideal. And thank you, Honey, for sponsoring today's video. Legend has it that Ferruccio Lamborghini loved 2 things: fast cars and fighting bulls. And since he was a successful businessman, the Lamborghini company is still to this very day a successful tractor maker. He had a lot of access to both. One of his favorite fast cars was his Ferrari 250 GT of the late 50s. But he did have some criticisms, namely the clutch that was too weak to hold up to what Ferruccio considered normal use. And he went to Enzo Ferrari himself and thought that he might be able to work something out. Ferrari told him to get lost. And out of pure spite, Lamborghini gathered up his tractor makers and told them to rework the car to fix all of its little shortcomings. But that got him thinking. Still enraged at old man Enzo, he decided he'd do something that would change the automotive landscape forever. He had his engineers build a car that would crush Ferrari. What they produced was a V12 powered masterpiece aptly titled the 350 GT, 100 more than the 250 GT Ferrari, and started an absolute revolution. And this was genius. The first Lamborghini sports car, the first Lamborghini to have a V12, and the first to enter into a rivalry that would cement Italy as the place where the fastest cars come from. It was followed by the 400 GT, which had the same 3.5 liter V12 bored out to 4 liters, which is actually what the 350 and 400 stood for. But I kind of like the angle that it was just named to be better than Ferrari. But those are old cars that pretty much no one cares about, except investors these days. In fact, despite being pretty good looking, I don't even think that they hold up to other European sports cars of the era. Fortunately, the story, it doesn't end there. In 1966, a team of speed junkies working for the Lamborghini company had a brilliant idea. They saw that they had a beautiful V12 power plant, and they saw that real race cars used a mid-engine design. They asked Lamborghini if they, could make a mid-engine car using that V12, and to everyone's surprise, he said yes. Pew, pew, pew. He thought it would make a cool marketing stunt, so he wanted it named after his good friend and fighting bull breeder. You remember, because bullfights were his second favorite thing in life. What no one predicted was that not only would the mid-engine V12 Lamborghini start a sports car revolution, it would cement the tradition of a raging bull. Every V12 supercar Lambo would make following this one would be named after a famous matador slayer. That car is of course called the Miura. And the Miura was extremely fast for its time. The shape, the speed, and the layout would define an entire new genre of car. They called it the supercar. Supercar. Cementing Lamborghini as the company willing to build the insane cars that no one else dared to touch. I don't know if people knew they needed a car like that before it was built. I think lots of people were perfectly happy with their front engine, quote unquote normal Astons and Ferraris, but when the Miura came out, they knew they needed it. There were wait lists to get on the wait lists, and celebrities started sending gifts just to try to jump to the front of the line, which frankly shocked Mr. Lamborghini. He thought that he may sell 10 at a loss if he were lucky. And by the end of the bull run, they had sold 764 and left thousands of people wanting more. And that's a lot of conversions, including Ferruccio Lamborghini himself, who would later declare that the Miura was his favorite car. Which I don't know if you're actually supposed to say that, kind of like declaring your favorite son. But it was 1974, and after ushering in the age of the supercar, Ferruccio, he retired. The monster that he created, though, was far from done. Here's the thing, Ferrari was still seen as the de facto fast car company, and their newest car, the Ferrari Daytona, was faster than the Miura. And no one at the new cut-loose Lamborghini would stand for that. So after a lot of high-octane caffeine, well, the boys got to work. If the Miura set the template for supercars, the Countach set the template for what Lamborghini meant at its core. It had the Lambo doors. It's the very reason we called them Lambo doors. It had insane shapes. It had humongous tires. Everything was in your face. And it made a musical note that still resonates in every gearhead's heart. I could be put to sleep to that sound every single night. The Countach epitomized everything Lamborghini, except for one very small but important detail. It wasn't named after a bull. No, it's much stranger than that actually. Countach was allegedly what a worker would yell when he was excited or surprised. It basically means my goodness in Piedmontese. Marcello Gondini, who designed the Countach, wrote it down as the name of his design as a joke, but it stuck because that's what history is. Weird, like really weird. And by the end of production, the Countach's V12 had been bored out to 5.2 liters, and it was making over 400 horsepower, and the final edition, the 25th anniversary and one of the most radical looking cars ever built, was actually overhauled by none other than Horacio Pagani. Yes, that Pagani. Again, history is super weird. Pagani quit because Lamborghini was more into being insane than being revolutionary. Check out the video that we just did about the company up here. Imagine how different things would have been if Lamborghini hadn't become the evil sibling. And by the end of the 80s, Lamborghini was no longer seen as a Ferrari rival. Ferraris were driven by the good guys. The powder-loving, machine gun-toting bad guys drove Lamborghinis. Sure, they're uncomfortable, unreliable, and very difficult to drive, but you don't need comfort when you're a badass. It was the car the devil would drive, which made for an easy transition to the next iteration of Raging Bull. This time actually named after a bull. Diablo. It means devil in Spanish, which is why it made the perfect name for a breed of fighting bulls that were famous throughout Madrid. And the Lamborghini Diablo, well, it was as evil as the name implied. We even named it one of the most dangerous cars ever because it's got all the insanity and lack of safety that the Countach had, but about 100 more horsepower. Together, the speed, style, and insanity helped further set Lamborghini apart from their Italian rivals. Old people bought Ferraris, nerds bought Porsches, and underground music stars and Japanese Yakuza bosses bought Lamborghinis. And that made it a great choice to be the face of an illegal street racing game franchise called Need for Speed. And let me know if you played Need for Speed down in the comments. Because the biggest thing that happened during the Diablo era was the Diablo got four-wheel drive. And that was the last piece of the Lamborghini puzzle. Once again paved the path forward for all supercars. They literally stole the system from the Humvee wannabe, the LM002, and it turned the Diablo from a car that drove like every other supercar to something that had incredible traction. The Diablo was fast, one of the fastest cars money could buy at the time, and now much easier to drive. So a lot more people were willing to push the limits and make a spectacle of themselves and turn the Diablo into a cultural icon. Raise your hands if you've ever seen a poster of a Diablo. Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. Except you, Joe, in the back, you could put your hand down now. Yeah. Unfortunately, being an icon to the disenfranchised masses isn't always exactly profitable, and Lamborghini's future was in limbo after Chrysler, who had been their financial backbone, also started having major money issues and dropped the Italian company from the lineup. In 2001, after years of uncertainty, help came from probably the last place anyone could have ever imagined. Picture a company that thrives on rules, one that doesn't understand fun for fun's sake. Maybe a German company whose motto is something like progress through technology and not our cars want to kill you, you know, like Audi, who came to Italy with a plan, revamped Lamborghini's image by creating a car that was proper fast, could stand toe-to-toe with the new rivals like the Zonda. They named it the Bat, or as we know it, the Murcielago, which honestly, other than some modern styling, didn't seem like much of an upgrade over the Diablo at first. But Murcielago, the bull, not the car, was famous for still being able to fight even after being stabbed over 20 times. That tenacity seemed to rub off on the car named after it. Because even though it started somewhat tame, over its 10-year run, the Murcielago got more and more and more insane. The V12, still basically the same block as the original V12 350 GT, had now been bored out all the way to 6.2 liter. It was good for over 600 horsepower. The first upgrade to the LP640 Murci saw the engine further bored out. And by the last iteration in 2009, the Murci was making 660 horsepower and could sprint to 60 in just 2.8 seconds. The thing that's hard about this era of Lamborghini, the first cars built under Volkswagen's watchful eye, is that they were sort of being left behind by a growing breed of hypercars. Maybe it was Audi's influence, or maybe it was because the newcomers like Pagani, Koenigsegg, and the revitalized McLaren were just pushing the envelope even further. What that means is that the Murci slowly got more normal in order to compete with the growing breed of super fast supercars. Sure, normal's good if your name's Jeff and you just got promoted to CEO of a tech firm that specializes in creating accounting software, but it's not Lamborghini. The Murci then was trapped in limbo. It wasn't this insane, barely coherent supercar the Diablo was, but it was still too much of a lunatic to compete with the track-focused super weapons it was meant to compete against. And I'd love to say that it was their biggest mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. Audi knew what they were doing, and underneath that German crunchy exterior, there was still a fire-breathing lunatic. And between the Gallardo selling like hotcakes and the raging bull Murcielago finally becoming something normal people could actually drive, Lamborghini had the most successful decade they had ever had. Success means one thing: money. Well, at least to the executives. And money means research and development. Research and development plus Lamborghini meant that for the first time since the 1960s, the V12 engine that had been in every raging bull would get a complete overhaul. A 6.5 liter, 700 horsepower V12. And along with it, the fastest Lamborghini ever built, the Aventador. It's named after a bull. Of course, you already knew that. What you may not have known is that it represented a radical departure from the Lamborghini of old. The Murcielago was a car in transition from the insanity of the Diablo into the pure engineering masterpiece that is the Aventador, which focused on handling and drivability over simply being beautiful and powerful. And while I say that, I want to immediately contradict myself. Compared to the emerging hypercar market of the 2000s, the Aventador is a track-focused car right in line with the Zonda, the Challenge Stradale, and the Carrera GT. It's sane, stable, and thanks to the naturally aspirated V12 and all-wheel drive, incredibly fast. It even has Formula One style suspension to keep it glued to the road. But it came out in the 2010s. Ferrari was switching to hybrids, Porsche 2, and even McLaren with the P1. They had all ditched giant engines in favor of smaller turbocharged hybrids. Here was Lamborghini, making the tamest car they had ever built, while refusing to change with the times by including a massive V12. Folks, if you want a champion to stand against the rising tide of electrics, a car company that absolutely refuses to stop making giant, cylinder-packed, fire-spitting engines is a hell of a symbol. Because you have to grow up, but you don't have to grow old. Like the rest of the Raging Bulls, the Aventador had the Ultimate Edition, the aptly named Aventador Ultimate, a car which makes 770 horsepower and can go 221 miles per hour. It will very likely be the final purely gas-powered Lamborghini. So, do we need to shed a tear? No, this is Lamborghini. And in 2021, they brought back the Countach as a hybrid. But boys and girls, this is not a Prius. The nearly 800 horsepower homage to the original bad guy mobile still has the same V12 you get in the Aventador, and it probably represents the future of Lamborghini. See, the new Countach actually isn't the next Raging Bull. It's just a trim package on the Scion, which is just a modified Aventador. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, the Scion slipped right under the radar in my world, but it was actually Lamborghini's first attempt to mate electric motor to their V12. It has no battery, relying instead on a giant capacitator because, well, Lamborghini. Oh, did I mention that it's the most powerful Lamborghini ever made? Well, at least until the next Raging Bull comes out, which, yes, is coming very soon. Our buddy Stradman has already put down a deposit, and your boy is very jealous. But what exactly will it be? I have no idea. Lamborghini has been teasing a few things. Some are very worrying. An Asterion, for instance, is a four-door luxury Lambo. There's also the Terzo Millennio, the most insane-looking car I have ever seen. That happened to be fully electric. Look, if anyone can make an electric car exciting, it's gonna be Lamborghini. So I am still excited about it. Here's what we haven't heard much about, what they're doing with that V12 hybrid. The only thing that they have done is confirm that there is one coming soon. When everyone else has gone the way of the future, hidden under layers of boring track-focused marketing, Lamborghini is still the insane company that built the Miura, a company that is willing to be the bull in the china shop and continue to make massive V12s. Greenpeace be damned. And here I am, enjoying every moment of it. Thank you for watching this episode of Overdrive. If you enjoyed it, check out our Overdrive starter pack up here, or check out what YouTube recommends you watch down here. I'm Brad, this is Ideal, and promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.